Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Board with Each Other Bite Size, the spin off podcast from the main Board with Each Other podcast, where we look at shorter, lighter, tinier, sometimes duller games than our main reviews podcast, which does deep dives into slightly more weighty fare. And this week, we are going to be talking about Back to the Future Dice Through Time. I'm joined as ever by my lovely wife, my co host and player two, Hannah Kelly.
Hi guys.
Back to the Future Dice Through Time is a Ravensburger published co-op game. The object of the game is to travel through the 4 timelines from the Back to the Future movie. So
They only made 3 Back to the Futures. How are there 4 timelines?
because it starts in one timeline, the timeline that it starts, 1985. Yeah. 1985, 1885, 1955, and 2015.
That's
It's been and gone, yes, Hannah. Yeah. We were promised hoverboards. We got no hoverboards.
no hoverboard. No.
The object of the game is you have locations at all of these various
Times.
there's various times, yeah. And you have to use dice to take a variety of actions to clear locations of events from the movies, basically. When you clear all of the events from a location, you get to draw a item from
Artifact.
from the deck associated with that location, and then return it to a specific location on the board. So, for example, you'd be in 1955, you'd clear all the events at Marty's high school dance, Marty's father's high school dance, and you would draw, say, perhaps a telescope from 1885. You would then have to travel to 1885 to a specific location, drop it off, and you continue to do so until you have returned all of the items. The complicating factor in all of this is Biff, yes. So each timeline has its own version of Biff. And Biff is basically a spoiler. He stops you from clearing locations and he stops you from dropping items off. You can move Biff away by an action from the dice that you roll.
Punching him.
Yep, you can punch Biff, but you must clear him before you do anything else. If you have multiple events on the same location, you have to clear them all in one turn in order to get rid of them. Some of the actions that you can do on the dice, you can move to any other location in the same timeline as you. You can move to a different time.
Same location, different time.
Same location, different time. You can remove things called paradox tokens off the board, which I'll explain in a minute. Or you can use a dice to reroll another dice. You also get spanners, which are sort of multi-use, multi-use tool dice, whatever resources for you to clear events from objectives. At the end of every turn, the timeline with the most events on different locations on it causes the outer time marker to move forward that many spaces. So, for example, if you had a timeline that had 3 separate locations with uncleared events on, the outer time marker would move forward 3 spaces. You then add a paradox token to every location that basically had an event on it. Those then get worse and worse as time goes by and on later turns, because they are then counted on top of the number of locations that have events on them. If the outer time marker moves to 12, you lose the game. So not a lot of wiggle room there.
No. And it's worth noting that you don't have a set number of turns. It just depends how far that out of time marker moves up.
Yeah. If it gets to 12, game over. When you return an item, you move the outer time marker back 1 space. When you do return an item, you also get to pick a token from a stack of face-down tokens, and those tokens basically represent one of the results of your dice. You put that on the board and it can be used by any player at any time to take whatever action that responds to it. The only other thing worth mentioning is the rippling mechanic. So you can place a dice down on your location, and that dice can be used by yourself or another player at the same or any future time period. So, for example, if you put a dice down in 1955, somebody in that same location in 2015 could use that dice.
And that becomes really important, because if you've got like a stack of 3 different cards that you need to clear, you may not have enough dice to be able to do it all in one turn. Therefore, the only legit way of being able to do that is by rippling dice through the years.
And the ripple dice stays there for the rest of the turn, and you can, if you wish, bring it back to your hand of dice before you roll them at the start of the next turn. That is basically all there is to it. There's some special events mixed in there that have impacts on the game. So, for example, you'll have something like you've got to re-roll all flux capacitor results this turn. That's an example, but they vary as you go through. So, the reason I picked this up was mainly off the back of the the Fast and the Furious game,
Which was epic.
which was excellent. Refer to our main review. I got a little bit confused because I thought this was another Funko Pop Flash Prospera small inverter, but it turns out it wasn't. It was Ravensburger version that looks a lot like and is packaged a lot like the Funko, and
Plays a lot like it, yeah.
to a certain extent, yeah.
Yeah.
I knew there were two versions. One of Back to the Future games. One is Back to Squirrel Hall, but is a lot more difficult to get a hold of. So saw this, picked it up. I mean, I'm just going to say it right out the bat. I don't think I've ever been as disappointed in a game as this.
Enraged, in fact. You're angry about this game. It offends you.
It does.
And you're not a man that's easily offended.
No. And I usually find something good in most board games, but this one I really, really struggle with.
Well, I guess that's the reason why we're doing this as a bite size.
Yes, because spoiler alert, we did manage to find a copy of the other one, so I have a feeling we'll have a full deep dive review into that in the future. I don't think two deep dives into two Back to the Future games was necessary as part of our content, and also I really didn't like this. We will go into why, but I didn't want to talk at length and just sort of spend half an hour essentially shitting on a game for no reason.
And we've only played it 3 times.
Full disclosure, we couldn't bear to get through 6 playthroughs of this,
Yeah,
which is our
It's
usual.
our usual metric, and so we didn't, and so we felt that would be
Unfair to give it
Yeah.
the full review treatment, but we have played it 4 times actually. We have played it 4 times, and my issues with it straight off the bat remained throughout all 4 times, and I don't think my opinion was going to change whatsoever. In fact, it may have got worse by forcing myself to play it again. So, I mean, I've talked quite a lot. Do you want to start off with your thoughts and opinions as a package and as a game?
Yeah, so I mean, I'm not a huge Back to the Future movie person.
It's
So
no Fast and the Furious,
it's no
right?
Fast and the Furious, really, is what I want to say. So I think already I'm probably, not necessarily on board with it as I was expecting you to be. All the components are there. So again, the things that I loved about Fast and the Furious game, I know we're not supposed to compare, but whatever. You've got little miniatures, you've got cards, you've got dice, you've got tokens. It's all there.
Yeah, production-wise, it feels very, very similar, I have to say.
Yeah.
Although the artwork is definitely
Subpar.
and far, far less effort put in.
Yep.
Yeah, I think components-wise and sort of general package-wise, there's nothing wrong with it. The artwork is a bit uninspiring,
Yep.
falls a bit flat, I think, and everything else is there. It's a decent enough package.
Yeah. I think one of the amazing things about Fast and the Furious, and again, no one comparing, but it was so cool, I think. And, the way in which the cards interacted with the game,
Yeah.
it made it for a really fun play experience. It feels very much like roll some dice and move around a board, And I think that gameplay element is really quite lacking, really,
Yeah.
to be honest.
No, I mean, absolutely. Let's get into the gameplay. I think the main issue that I have with this is, with the exception of the rippling mechanic, which you could put on, you could reframe in any sort of way. It does really feel like a very bare bones co-op experience with the Back to the Future stuff, just sort of
You're running around a board,
spray
chasing after
painted
things.
onto it. It's got that sort of classic pandemic-y but simplified thing that you find in a lot of board games where you're sort of racing against the clock and trying to get everything cleared and all that kind of thing. This could be anything. There's nothing there that really ties it thematically, aside from the time hopping and rippling dice thing.
The 4 DeLoreans that are on the board.
And the 4 DeLoreans on the board, yeah.
They don't have moving doors.
No, they do not, which is really disappointing. I think ultimately my main issue with this is it's just dull.
It is really dull. And I think, it just becomes a race to almost get to the end one way or the other.
Yeah.
It's not like you have to particularly strategize, really, to be honest, because you can't really. And it doesn't really, there's no character or no flavour about it that makes you want to engage, particularly with what's happening on the board.
No, and there's no, because of the dice and because of the random events, it's basically just sort of glorified whack-a-mole where you're frustrated by not being able to, some turns you don't have a hammer.
Yeah.
That's what it feels like, and there's nothing there. It's intensely difficult. We're not close to winning all 4 times that we played it, and unfortunately that sort of Venn diagram of fiendishly hard and dull at the same time, which is equals irritating in my head. Like there's nothing sort of dragging you to the board to go, oh, let's try this, let's try that.
I think even if you did win, and even if we did win,
I wouldn't particularly care.
No, part of me was like, well, we should keep going until we win, but
It's just like I'm not having most co-ops. I have a good time, win or
Yeah.
lose. This I just was not having a good time. Full stop.
I would also say is that there is no, like most co-ops, there's no room for interaction because it's pretty obvious what you're doing and where you're going.
Yeah,
You can't be on the same square as each other because as soon as you're on the same square,
in the
same
same time,
location in the same time zone, you get a paradox token.
2 paradox tokens, which is
So it
yeah,
is quite
yeah.
severe. And it just feels like there is no even co-opability around it, really.
Yeah, I mean, the whole thing is a glorified filler fetch quest.
Yeah.
Go here, pick that up, drop it off. Go here,
Mm.
pick that up, drop it off. And you're frustrated by the dice because if you don't have what you need, there's so many turns where you end up with spare dice because it's just, oh, well, this is pointless.
Yeah,
There's
that's really ridiculous.
nothing I
And you
can
think,
do.
oh, well, I'll split it for what purpose? We often
Exactly.
ripple it just to see if we're going to get something come up on where we happen to be, in which
We've never
case, no
managed to
point.
use a ripple dice
No.
ever because it's just too it doesn't work like you think it would, and it's just the
Yeah.
timing's all off. It's always the wrong time.
Yeah. Not to mention, it would probably take you a turn and all your dice to get to where you need to be able to ripple.
Sometimes, yeah,
In the meantime, you've got other things going elsewhere on the board that you need to keep track of and keep control of so that your time marker doesn't run rampant.
yeah, and you got the special events in there, but none of them are particularly interesting or
No.
thematic. They just feel
Thematic.
yeah, they just feel very basic, like mechanicy. Oh, do this for no reason this turn, or this is
Mm-hmm.
happening for no reason this turn. And it just feels really, really bright
Mm-hmm.
and like I say, dull. There's nothing. There's no excitement factor, and you never feel like you're executing a strategy. You
Mm-hmm.
just feel like you're running around desperately trying to solve again whack-a-mole. That's what
Yeah.
it feels like.
I kind of imagine this is the sort of present that you would buy for somebody if you didn't really know much about board games, but you knew someone liked Back to the Future and board games, and you pick it up for them,
Yeah,
and you
absolutely.
play it once at Christmas or birthday, and then you would
That,
play it again.
yeah, and then that will be it. Yeah, yeah. It just falls absolutely flat for me,
Mm-hmm.
unfortunately. And if there was more dimension to it, particularly strategically, and there was a bit more mitigation with regards to the dice, something else you could do, I guess, would just add a little bit to it and just make it a little bit more palatable. But as it stands, it's an overly difficult, far too luck based exercise and banality,
Yes.
in my opinion. Which
That's a neat
is
summary.
well, yeah, which is incredibly harsh, but I really, really didn't like this.
Yeah.
I would actually go so far as to say this is one of the worst modern board games I've played. I really don't enjoy it.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. You're not gonna get much argument from me.
Yeah, okay, so we're kind of on the same page there. So would you give it as a general score then?
So what I would also, before we go back to like general scoring,
Yeah.
what I would also just say is that I think we are here to review things from a two-player perspective. I would say that actually this is probably fundamentally broken at a two-player.
Yes, I think yeah, she is.
I think the more players you have, the easier it would be
Yeah,
because the difficulty doesn't particularly ramp up, aside from the fact that you may end up cohabiting similar
you
spaces.
draw more Ven cards per turn.
Do you?
Yeah.
How many more?
I think you draw an extra one for each extra player.
Yeah, so I don't think that's that bad in comparison to the amount of extra dice that you would get.
But I think the rippling mechanic would actually work a
A
lot
lot
better
better.
with 3 or 4 people. So
Yeah.
it might just be us for just playing it with two. But I mean, classic examples of a game that I thought was good, but I just thought was too challenging for two. We just played two-handed, wouldn't
Yeah.
we? We just control two characters.
I don't think I'm going to be able to persuade you or twist your arm into doing it.
Absolutely not. No, because I think that's the fundamental problem. Is why we didn't play it our usual 6 times. Because I couldn't bear to
Yeah.
go off the shelf again. And it's not often that I just can't bear to play a ball game
No,
like usually.
exactly.
But even if it's average, I'll be like, yeah, it's fine, I'll play it.
If you are going to, if this hasn't put you off and you are going to reach out, I would suggest that if you play double-handed for
Yeah.
this, two-player, absolutely not.
Or yeah, 3 or 4 handed if you're playing
Yeah.
solo. Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, what would you give it as an overall score?
I mean, probably a 2 or a 3.
Yeah, I was going to go 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really is one of the worst board games I've played recently. Like, I really don't like it, and I can't recommend it to almost anybody.
Yeah, I
Really?
think I would. I was okay to play a second time, but I think after the second time I was
No,
done.
like absolutely done. Don't
Yeah.
want to play this. Yeah. So unfortunate, but we review things as we come to them and as we play them, and hopefully the other version, the Prospero Hall version, will be a lot better.
Maybe you're just obsessed with like Back to the Future. In
I am a
which
little bit
case,
obsessed with Back to the Future.
not you. I mean, people out there. In which case, give it a crack. I'm sure you can pick it up next to nothing because I don't think they can probably justify charging for it. Um,
It should be given away free.
um,
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, thanks for joining us for this very quick look at an unfortunately terrible game, in our opinion. And I look forward to you joining us next time. We will hopefully have something a lot more positive to talk about. But until next time, have fun, be good to each other, and play lots of board games.